Hey guys, this is chapter 5 of The Science of Getting Rich. I will read the text and then have some commentary at the end. This is a really important chapter of the book. Chapter 5, Increasing Life. You must get rid of the last vestige of the old idea that there is a deity whose will it is that you should be poor, or whose purposes may be served by keeping you in poverty. The intelligent substance, which is all and in all, and which lives in all and lives in you, is a consciously living substance. Being a consciously living substance, it must have the natural and inherent desire of every living intelligence for increase of life. Every living thing must continually seek for the enlargement of its life, because life, in the mere act of living, must increase itself. A seed dropped into the ground springs into activity, and in the act of living produces 100 more seeds. Life, by living, multiplies itself. It is forever becoming more. It must do so if it continues to be at all. Intelligence is under this same necessity for continuous increase. Every thought we think makes it necessary for us to think another thought. Consciousness is continually expanding. Every fact that we learn leads us to the learning of another fact. Knowledge is continually increasing. Every talent we cultivate brings to mind the desire to cultivate another talent. We are subject to the urge of life, seeking expression, which ever drives us on to know more, to do more, and to be more. In order to know more, do more, and be more, we must have more. We must have things to use. For we learn and do and become only by using things. We must get rich so that we can live more. The desire for riches is simply the capacity for larger life-seeking fulfillment. Every desire is the effort of an unexpressed possibility to come into action. It is power seeking to manifest, which causes desire. That which makes you want more money is the same as that which makes the plant grow. It is life, seeking fuller expression. The one living substance must be subject to this inherent law of all life. It is permeated with a desire to live more. That is why it is under the necessity of creating things. The one substance desires to live more in you, hence it wants you to have all the things you can use. It is the desire of God that you should get rich. He wants you to get rich because he can express himself better through you if you have plenty of things to use in giving him expression. He can live more in you if you have unlimited command of the means of life. The universe desires you to have everything you want to have. Nature is friendly to your plans. Everything is naturally for you. Make up your mind that this is true. It is essential, however, that your purpose should harmonize with the purpose that is in all. You must want real life, not mere pleasure or sensual gratification. Life is the performance of function, and the individual really lives only when he performs every function, physical, mental, and spiritual, of which he is capable, without excess in any. You do not want to get rich in order to live swinishly, for the gratification of animal desires. That is not life. But the performance of every physical function is a part of life, and no one lives completely who denies the impulses of the body a normal and healthful expression. You do not want to get rich solely to enjoy mental pleasures, to get knowledge, to gratify ambition, to outshine others, to be famous. All these are a legitimate part of life. But the man who lives for the pleasures of the intellect alone will only have a partial life, and he will never be satisfied with his lot. You do not want to get rich solely for the good of others, to lose yourself for the salvation of mankind, to experience the joys of philanthropy and sacrifice. The joys of the soul are only a part of life, and they are no better or nobler than any other part. You want to get rich in order that you may eat, drink, and be merry when it is time to do these things, in order that you may surround yourself with beautiful things, see distant lands, feed your mind, and develop your intellect, in order that you may love men and do kind things, and be able to play a good part in helping the world to find truth. But remember that extreme altruism is no better and no nobler than extreme selfishness. Both are mistakes. Get rid of the idea that God wants you to sacrifice yourself for others, and that you can secure his favor by doing so. God requires nothing of the kind. What he wants is that you should make the most of yourself, for yourself, and for others. And you can help others more by making the most of yourself than in any other way. You can make the most of yourself only by getting rich. So it is right and praiseworthy that you should give your first and best thought to the work of acquiring wealth. Remember, however, that the desire of substance is for all, and its movements must be for more life to all. It cannot be made to work for less life to any, because it is equally in all, seeking riches and life. Intelligent substance will make things for you, but it will not take things away from someone else and give them to you. You must get rid of the thought of competition. You are to create, not to compete for what is already created. You do not have to take anything away from anyone. You do not have to drive sharp bargains. You do not have to cheat or take advantage. You do not need to let any man work for you for less than he earns. You do not have to covet the property of others or to look at it with wishful eyes. No man has anything of which you cannot have the like, and that without taking what he has away from him. You are to become a creator, not a competitor. You are going to get what you want, but in such a way that when you get it, every other man will have more than he has now. I am aware that there are men who get a vast amount of money by proceeding in direct opposition to the statements in the paragraph above, and may add a word of explanation here. Men of the plutocratic type, who become very rich, do so sometimes purely by their extraordinary ability on the plane of competition. And sometimes they unconsciously relate themselves to substance in its great purposes and movements for the general racial upbuilding through industrial evolution. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan, etc., have been the unconscious agents of the supreme in the necessary work of systematizing and organizing productive industry. And in the end, their work will contribute immensely towards increased life for all. Their day is nearly over. They have organized production and will soon be succeeded by the agents of the multitude who will organize the machinery of distribution. The multimillionaires are like the monster reptiles of the prehistoric eras. They play a necessary part in the evolutionary process, but the same power which produced them will dispose of them. And it is well to bear in mind that they have never really been rich. A record of the private lives of most of this class will show that they have really been the most abject and wretched of the poor. Riches secured on the competitive plane are never satisfactory and permanent. They are yours today and another's tomorrow. Remember, if you are to become rich in a scientific and certain way, you must rise entirely out of the competitive thought. You must never think for a moment that the supply is limited. Just as soon as you begin to think that all the money is being cornered and controlled by bankers and others, and that you must exert yourself to get laws passed to stop this process and so on, in that moment you drop into the competitive mind, and your power to cause creation is gone for the time being. And what is worse, you will probably arrest the creative movements you have already instituted. Know that there are countless millions of dollars worth of gold in the mountains of the earth not yet brought to light, and know that if there were not, more would be created from thinking substance to supply your needs. Know that the money you need will come, even if it is necessary for 1,000 men to be led to the discovery of new gold mines tomorrow. Never look at the visible supply. Look always at the limitless riches in formless substance, and know they are coming to you as fast as you can receive and use them. Nobody, by cornering the visible supply, can prevent you from getting what is yours. So never allow yourself to think for an instant that all the best building spots will be taken before you get ready to build your house, unless you hurry. Never worry about the trusts and combines, and get anxious for fear that they will soon come to own the whole earth. Never get afraid that you will lose what you want because some other person beats you to it. That cannot possibly happen. You are not seeking anything that is possessed by anybody else. You are causing what you want to be created from formless substance, and the supply is without limits. Stick to the formulated statement. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. Okay, so that's chapter 5. And it's funny, as I'm reading this, I'm realizing just how much of my life has been shaped by this book. I knew it was a lot, but this is essentially chapter 5 of this book. This is essentially how I live my entire life. I don't know if this is where I got it or if this just appealed to me because naturally I was inclined to be this way, but everything he says about not taking from other people and everything you do being for the increase of everyone, this is really all I can say to this. My personal experience with this is that it feels great living a life like this. It feels great being in a state where while things are increasing for you, they're increasing for everyone else, and having this type of mentality, which of course I don't, this isn't like, I don't have a perfect mind. This isn't something I'm able to do with every single thing. But what he says about not being in competitive mind, to me, this is almost a perfect clarification of what not to do. If you listen to Abe Hicks or whatever, and they tell you to be in a high vibe and you want to be in the vibration that creates with source. All of these thoughts that he's describing, I think a lot of people default to this, like they have to get something that's someone else's or that there's a limited supply. And so if you get something, it'll be taken from somebody else. That's the mentality that's where you don't want to be. It's the opposite of the mentality that creates everything. And I can tell you this is true. This is true, and I see it to this day. Anytime I have a problem getting something I want to come to fruition, thoughts that can fall into this category are at the heart of it or are playing a role in it. And sometimes things that you don't recognize necessarily as being scarcity are, like, for example, judgments on other people are often coming from scarcity. Bad feelings that you have towards other people are often coming from feeling like, deep down, feeling like they took something from you or that they got something that you can't get. It's, if you trace back almost any feelings of resistance, especially if they're in relation to other people, it comes down to that, even if it doesn't appear that way on the surface. So, when you get good at existing not in the state of competition, it feels really good, first of all. I mean, this idea that you have to compete for resources and like he said, drive a sharp bargain, it doesn't feel good to live that way. It's a difficult way to live. And so when you break out of that and you feel how good it feels to, live like this, and you start to see the benefits of this and you start to see it working, you can generally tell really quickly when you're back in competitive mind, scarcity mind, because you start feeling crappy. You start having that old feeling like, I can't get this. This feeling of creative mind is one of, I can get anything. And it's a very distinct feeling, and when you're in it, and literally the way I would describe it, it's like a high vibe feeling. I'm not even a big, I wasn't, high vibrations and like the stuff that Abraham Hicks talks about, that wasn't me. I wasn't into that, I'm more, I don't know. I don't know. I like things to be more practical seeming, I guess. But that's how I would describe it. When I'm in that state where I am completely above the competitive mind and I'm solely thinking creatively and ideas are coming to me, which they do. When you get completely out of that, solutions start to present, ideas just come to you. It's amazing. And that, to me, I would just, if I had to describe it in words, I would say it feels like you're vibrating with the source of everything. It's like you ask and it's given. And so this chapter, I don't know, I probably already said this about one of them so far. This might be the most important chapter in the entire book. If you stopped here, you could probably do a lot with just this. What else? Yeah, in the beginning he says, you must get rid of the last vestiges of the old idea that there's a deity whose will it is that you should be poor. You may find it difficult to think this way. Because people have a lot of beliefs about things. This was pretty easy for me because I didn't have a lot of beliefs like that when I started. It hasn't been as easy for me with things that don't have to do with money. like in the area of relationships, this was a lot harder. It was a lot harder to think this way, to think non-competitively, because as you get older, if you don't have a partner, there's that sense of time running out. That's scarcity. That's a perfect example. Time running out is a perfect example of scarcity mind, competition. That feeling, that's the feeling. You rise above that and you can see that it's not true. You can see that, the abundance is there and that these constructs are just, illusions essentially. But so you might run into that if you have a lot of issues with money. This could be an area where you're constantly having to turn your thoughts away from, the old thoughts of competition and opportunity being monopolized and, the supply being limited, all of that. That's what you need to do is when you find yourself thinking that, you have to turn it away as soon as possible, because like he says, where does he say this? He says, in that moment you drop into competitive mind and your power to cause creation is gone for the time being. So you got to get it back as soon as you can. This might be a push-pull type of thing for some people. And, also my YouTube channel is really addressing when you run into a wall with this. You're trying to change your thoughts to match up to this place where the things come to you, and they just keep going back. They just keep going back. You keep finding yourself coming back to this negative thought. And when that happens over and over again, the bottom line is that you might have to actually put some focus on that negative thing that you don't want to create, that you don't want to think about, for the purpose of unraveling why it is that you keep coming back to that. What belief is it that you keep coming back to? And where did it come from? Sometimes you just have to go and actually deal with it, because it comes up too often for you to comfortably shift your attention away from it, because you're just shifting your attention away from it all day. And that's where I think the idea of toxic positivity comes in. If you're constantly all day just like trying to stop thinking about something, where your work is. Your work is in resolving that thing, and then you can do this, rather than exhausting yourself just trying to be positive all the time when you don't feel that way. That's not a thing to do. So that's just something to consider. And also when he's talking about, Rockefeller, Carnegie, all these people that revolutionized business and stuff back in the day when he was writing this, there's a lot of that today too. People really feel this way about certain billionaires and stuff today that have done stuff that are, kind of controlling it, that have revolutionized the internet. It's the same thing with them. Focusing on them and feeling like they're going to take over the world. I can't find it. Where did he say? Don't worry that they're taking over the world and they're cornering the supply. The same power which produced them will dispose of them. And just like he said with the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, it's well to bear in mind that they have never really been rich. A record of the private lives of most of this class will show that they have really been the most abject and wretched of the poor. You don't need to worry about it. And corrective forces will come in and balance that out. And the same thing is that people that hate capitalism, he says in here, talking about Rockefellers, Carnegies, that essentially, they were unconscious agents of the supreme and the necessary work of systematizing and organizing productive industry. And in the end, their work will contribute immensely towards increased life for all. These same capitalist pigs that everybody hates, this system has lifted so many people out of poverty. When you look at how people, especially in America, when you look at how people live today, even the poorest people are rich compared to even the people he's talking about in this day and age. It's crazy. Spending any time thinking about that is a waste. You can think about that when you're rich, when you've gotten money, when you've gotten whatever it is that you're trying to get. That's when, if at that point, from that vantage point, you feel the same, you can put your attention on that then. But it's amazing how your perspective shifts as you get more money and you see how this works. As you see it play out in your life, you get a much deeper understanding of why things are the way they are, why people are where they are, how the thought and general state of mind of people is going to keep them wherever they are, regardless of laws that are passed or whatever you do. That becomes something that you really understand more deeply. So again, all of this just to say, clear your mind about money. You've got to focus on the abundance and the sense of certainty and all of that, and keep your mind out of these thoughts of competition and other things that are really not necessary for you to move forward. You getting this is the important thing right now, and you can philosophize later. So that's all. I will be back with chapter 6 soon.